Who's actually going to get the most out of an AIWEIYA-Remote control lawn mower, and who should leave it on the shelf? If you're trying to decide whether a remote-operated, hybrid engine mower is worth the price tag for a typical suburban yard, you're not the only one weighing those questions. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The biggest hesitation most buyers share is this: will this thing really handle my uneven lawn without turning into a noisy, fuel-guzzling headache, or will I end up with a pricey gadget that barely trims the edges? In the next few minutes I'll walk through the real-world setup, daily usability, hidden trade-offs, and exactly who should click buy now versus who should keep their old push mower. Let's start with the fundamental premise behind AIWEIYA's design. This isn't a simple battery-only mower. It's a hybrid that mixes a 1600W brushless electric motor with a small gasoline engine to give you the torque needed for steep slopes up to a 45% grade, according to the specs. The idea is that the electric side handles the bulk of the cutting while the gas assist kicks in when the terrain gets tough. For anyone with a backyard that has hills, terraced garden beds, or a mix of hard-packed and soft soil, that hybrid approach can actually make a practical difference. If your lawn is flat and you only need a modest cut once a week, you'll likely find a cheaper electric-only mower does the job just fine, and you'll save on fuel and maintenance. Setting it up is a bit more involved than pulling a cord on a traditional walk-behind mower. First, you have to assemble the crawler tracks, which arrive in a compact box. The tracks snap together with a series of pins and bolts. The process takes about 2030 minutes if you have a basic toolbox. Once the tracks are on, you mount the cutting deck, adjust the height lever. The mower offers a range from 1.1 inches up to 5.9 inches, and then connect the fuel line. The fuel tank is relatively small, about 1 liter, so you'll need to refill every few hours if you're tackling a large, overgrown area. The electric side of the system plugs into a 24V battery pack, which is removable for charging. For most users, the biggest practical pain point is remembering to keep both power sources topped up. You can't just rely on the battery if you're working a steep slope for an hour. In day-to-day use, the remote control aspect is where the experience diverges from a standard mower. The controller resembles a small radio-type handset with a joystick for forward, reverse, and turn, plus a button to engage the blade. You stand at a comfortable distance, roughly 15 feet away, and guide the mower across the lawn. For many homeowners, this feels like a novelty that quickly turns into a convenience. I tested it on a 70-meter lawn with a mix of grass lengths and a small garden path. The mower cut through the taller sections without stalling, and the remote allowed me to avoid stepping on wet patches after a recent rain. The blade engagement is instant, and the cutter deck stays level because the crawler tracks distribute weight evenly, which is a real advantage on uneven ground. However, the remote control isn't a magic wand. The field of view is limited by line of sight, so you can't drive it around a corner or under dense hedges without physically moving yourself. This means you still need to do a bit of walking and repositioning, especially on larger properties with obstacles. Moreover, the mower's noise level sits somewhere in the 70 decibel range, louder than a typical electric mower but quieter than a full-size gas push mower. If you live in a tightly packed neighborhood with early morning restrictions, you might want to schedule the cut later in the day to avoid complaints. The hybrid engine does reduce fuel consumption compared to a pure gasoline mower, but you still have to handle the smell of gasoline and occasional oil splatter issues you don't see with fully electric units. Now let's talk value. The AIWEIYA model is priced in the mid to high range for consumer mowers, which might raise eyebrows for budget-conscious shoppers. The real value proposition comes from its ability to tackle slopes that most consumer mowers simply won't climb. If your property includes a 30 to 45% incline, you're likely spending a fortune on a specialized hillside mower or resorting to manual trimming with a string trimmer. This hybrid crawler does the job in a single pass, saving you time and reducing the need for multiple tools. For a flat, well-maintained lawn, the extra cost is harder to justify. A standard 1800W cordless mower could cut the same area for a fraction of the price, with less maintenance hassle. Who should definitely consider buying this? First, owners of large, uneven estates where slope and terrain variability are the norm. Second, hobby landscapers who need to maintain a mix of grass heights, perhaps a sports field bordering a garden, because the adjustable cutting height lets you switch from a low-profile trim to a deeper cut without swapping decks. Third, anyone who values the